What are your immediate thoughts when you see these skirmishes and clashes breaking out once again on the streets of Paris?
Well, we knew it was coming, and the government certainly dramatised the situation all week. I think so far we are not seeing the same level of violence as last week, because there is far more police presence, because the state has had to reassert its authority, doesn't want to give the impression that it's no longer in control. So far it seems not as violent, but obviously the day is still very long. But it's not a surprise that we have a demonstration today, because it's been announced all through the week. What I'll be looking at, and many people will look at, is the overall number of demonstrators, not just in Paris but throughout France, to determine whether the movement is growing or shrinking. I'll be looking at the level of violence. So far, it seems okay. And I'll be looking at how the state maintains order or not. As I said before, it really doesn't want to give the impression of not being in control.
Now, early this week, one lawmaker came out to say that the French Republic is in danger. Would you go as far as that?
I think it's premature to say that it's in danger, because if we look at the overall number, you know, the first week was about 250,000. So it's not like we have millions of people in the street. It's not like factories are occupied. You know, we're not in a situation of May '68. So yes, there was a lot of violence last week, and that was that was very worrying. But I don't think we could say that the Republic is in danger. I mean, maybe it will become in danger if the movement grows and aggregates other sector. But at the minute, it's a strong movement that is supported by the French people, but the vast majority of the French people. But I don't think we could say that the Republic is in danger. I think that's over-dramatization at this stage.
Ariane Bourgain at Northumbria University. The French government has already, of course, made a string of concessions this week to try and calm the situation down and make these demonstrators a little more happy. But what else do they have left up their sleeves? What cards do they have left to play?
Well, they have. You always keep measures in reserve. You don't use all your ammunition, so to speak, in one go. So there could be new measures. There was already talk about encouraging companies to give bonuses. They could do something about the minimum wage. But obviously, there is a weapon that the president can use and has been used in the past, which is to replace the prime minister. The prime ministers under the Fifth Republic are used as fuse to protect the president. And the analogy I would make is when Mitterrand in 1983 did a total U-turn in his economic policy, and then he changed the prime minister. Now, if the situation deteriorates, Macron could very well say, "Okay, we need a new start in this presidency. I'm going to change my program. I'm going to go more towards social measures, and therefore I'm going to need a new person." So. But that would be if the situation gets worse and worse. So the government still has lots of cards that they can play, and I think what they're going to do is wait and see what happens today, wait and see the polls to determine whether it needs to do more or what they've done and what they've announced this week, especially the cancellation and not just the postponement of the tax rise will be enough to satisfy people, and they're going to stop. So there's still a long way to go before we reach the ultimate weapon, which would be dissolution of the National Assembly.
Ariane Bourgain, just do stay with us online for 1 second while I update our viewers on some of the figures coming into us here in the France 24 newsroom from the government. We're now hearing that there are 31,000 gilets jaunes, that's these yellow vest demonstrators, out in force this Saturday across France. 8,000 of them are in Paris. There have been 700 arrests across the country. 575 of them have been on the streets of the capital. Ariane Bourgain, is it fair to say, in your view, that this is a movement, this Gilets jaunes movement is evolving and changing much quicker than the French government can keep up with?
Yes, because, I mean, it's moving because to think that this movement was just about tax hike is wrong. This movement is based on anger that has been building over decades, and it's really based on the fear of the future. Whether it's the immediate future, will I have enough money at the end of the month? The near future, will I still have a job? But also the long-term future. And the biggest fear is the fear of social demotion, that your children are going to be worse off than you are. So that's why, even though it started with the tax hike, we now have a lot more demands, and they're all about income. It's all about having more money, and it's about the feeling of being neglected, and the feeling that they want to be recognized, and that their troubles are recognized. So that's why it's such a difficult movement to stop, because the demands keeps coming. And a lot of them are quite a contradiction. I was looking at the charter that was issued yesterday by one of the Yellow Vest movement, and they want at the same time to decrease tax to 25% and have a massive increase in the number of civil servants. Well, there's a problem here. How do you fund this? So you have all kind of demands that aggregated themselves to the original issue, and it's very, very difficult for the government to react to all of them. And in addition, there are no leaders really to talk to. So that's why we have this situation. However, I'd like to talk about the numbers you've just said. 31,000 would be a massive decrease compared to last week, but obviously we're still early in the day, and there might be more people this afternoon.
Yeah, it is very early in the day. Many hours left this Saturday as those Yellow Vest demonstrators pour out onto the streets of many towns, communities, cities across the country, notably here in Paris. Ariane Bauguin, we have yet, though, to hear at all from the French president. This is now the fourth consecutive weekend of unrest. Emmanuel Macron has yet to make any public statement about this unrest that's rocked the Republic. What can we read into that silence?
Well, I think he knows there's an element of real hatred that we have against him, that we have seen in the slogans, or when you interview Yellow Vest. And I think that the fear is that it's going to add to pour oil on the fire. So what I understand is that he's going to talk this week. So I think he's just waiting for this weekend to be over to then come out and say something. So I think that's why he didn't say anything this week. But obviously, he can easily then be accused of being a bit of a coward for not coming out. So it's kind of like he's between a rock and a hard place.
Ariane Bauguin, a senior lecturer in French and in politics at Northumbria University in the UK. Thank you so much for being with us here on France 24. Thank you so much.
Thank you.